So I've got the main walls set out for this ground floor level, and then just referring back to the source drawing, we've got a level below, which here is called level 1. I'm going to name things a bit differently. I'm going to keep the upper level as ground floor, and then I'm going to call this lower level basement. And so you can see in Revit I've got ground floor already open. That's our default floor level or floor plan. And then I'm going to go into a side view. So really any of these elevation views or the section will do here. I'll use the section, I think. And then it gives me a chance to adjust this crop region as well. So that border there that you have around the view is a cropping border, and anything outside of that is going to be cropped. So I want to stretch that down so that I've got enough room to add in a new level. And then back on the architecture tab we have the level tool. And so this should be your thought process whenever you're creating a new project. You want to start with the overall dimensions in plan, which I've done using those reference planes at the beginning to set the width and the depth or the length of the space. And then I'm using the levels to establish the heights. So with those three properties, we've got the volume of the space established, and that's really going to be your starting point for most projects. So using the level tool there, I'm simply going to draw a new level below the ground floor, and again I'm just using that method starting on the left hand side to line it up with the levels that are already there. Not too worried about the exact measurements at the moment, so I'm just going to click roughly to start that and then take it over to the right, and again line it up with the levels on the right hand side. So it's coming with the default name level 2, and I'm going to change that right away to basement. And always when you're asked if you want to rename corresponding views, say yes. And then I'll check the height there. So we've got a ceiling height of 3.2 metres, and then we have a floor structure above that. Because it's an older building, you might have a fairly decent floor structure there, and so we'll say it's 300 for now. We can change it if we need to later anyway. So that's going to give me 3.5 metres. So I'll change this height to minus 3,500. I'll press escape a couple of times just to deselect that, and then going back to the drawing, you can see that we've got some walls that come down to this level and others that don't. And so the walls that do come down are definitely the wall on the north side and this wall on the west. So in my ground floor plan where I can see those walls, I'm going to select those two walls using Control, and then I'll change the base constraint in Properties to Basement. And so now if I go into my basement floor plan, I can see those two walls have come down to this level. And then we have the wall alongside the stair, and just think about it logically, it probably comes down further than that because you have usable space down on this level below. So I'm going to go back to ground floor, and well, we've got to just for the time being make an assumption about the amount of room we have there, and I'm going to assume that it's related to this wall over here. So I'm going to draw a reference plane to mark that out. So just lining that up. And again, we'll see that as well on the basement level. And then the wall on the right, I'm going to split. So using split element again, I'm going to try and split it exactly on that intersection, so that I can bring just part of the wall down. Okay, so I've broken the wall there. Now, a little tip I can give you about the split tool is that it doesn't snap automatically. So I've tried to go close to the reference plane, but zooming right in, you'll see that the point where it's broken the wall isn't exactly on that reference plane. So to make it more precise, I'm going to go to thin lines, and then I can see exactly where the splitting is occurring, and I'm going to use the grip there to stretch the wall. And so I'll just do that in a different way. I'm going to drag this wall away. So, and notice this, I'm trying to drag it away, but it's trying to join it again. So I'm going to drag it right away, and then drag this one onto the reference plane. And it's kind of an annoying thing Revit does. It can be helpful sometimes, but in other cases it's not, when it joins the walls for you. So there I've just given a decent gap so that it won't automatically join these walls back together. And that way I can stretch it exactly onto the reference plane. And then in properties, I'm going to set the base constraint to basement. And then again in my basement floor plan, we'll see that wall's come down as well. And then in in the original ground floor plan, now I'll stretch this wall back up to the intersection there, and notice that it keeps the walls separate because one wall now is lower than the other. Okay, so again, looking at this source image, I'm going to assume that it's incomplete, and that we have again maybe these walls coming down on this level as well. So these two walls here and here, I'm going to set the base constraint to basement. And again, in my basement floor plan, now I can see those walls as well. So, so I've got all the walls that I want coming down to my basement level, but notice that we don't have all of the reference planes. So I'll show you the trick there. If you do want to see those reference planes in the lower level, the trick there is to be able to see the reference planes from the side. So I can go to one of these elevation views. That's my east elevation. So you could double click on the arrow or open the east elevation from your project browser, and then you'll see why the reference planes aren't visible, because they don't go down that far. So I can simply stretch them down in this view. That one's okay, and this one, yeah, I'll stretch that down too. Yep. Yep. It's easier. Oh, I can come over in a minute. I'll just finish recording and then I'll come over. Yeah, that's right. Okay, so I'll go back to my basement floor plan now, and then you can see those reference planes now are visible in this view. So that's a thing that's not all that obvious at first in Revit. Here I've got the north and the south elevations, and I will go into one of those. And again, I can see these reference planes, which will be helpful to have showing in the basement plan as well. Okay, and so then, again, I'm just going to assume that we have a wall that's not shown in the source image. There must be a wall down here somewhere. Oh, no, here we go. Floor plan, same size as level 2. Is that the case? I thought this one was smaller. Have you?
Downstairs,
yeah.
It's smaller. So
yeah.
It's, that little rectangle.
Yeah.
Just here.
Yeah, yeah.
So yeah, the wall doesn't even align.
Oh, yeah, 4810. Okay, that makes life easy. All right, so Okay, so I made a mistake there. We'll put these walls back up. So here, select these two walls and put them back to ground floor. And then I'll do a new reference plane. And again, just like before, I'll draw in a new dimension now between the two reference planes that I want to measure. And I can select the lower reference plane and change it to 4810. Is that what it was? Oh, 4801. Okay, so there, I'll stretch this wall and then go back to the ground floor to fix it up. So it's the other wall now that needs to be dragged up to join the previous wall. And then I'll have to repeat the process over here. So yep, I'll do it in the same way. There's an easier way, but I'll just do it the same way. So using split, I'll break this wall roughly where the reference plane is, and then stretch this one away so that it's not going to automatically rejoin itself to the one above. Bring this one down exactly to the reference plane, and now I can select this little wall segment, change the base constraint there to ground floor, and then bring it up to join the other one. It's nearly done. Back to the basement plan. Now I can finally add in the last remaining wall using the wall tool, and just the generic 300mm wall is all I'm going to use there, going from right to left. And now in the 3D view, you can see it's all starting to make sense and those walls are joined correctly. By the way, I'd be very surprised if in reality this wall didn't line up with this one above. But we'll leave it like that for now. And so then to make it a bit clearer how these levels are separated, at this point you could add in a floor. So when you're doing your own floors for interiors projects, it's often best to have the floors on the interior face of the wall. So I'm going to use, with the floor tool, this pick walls option, and I'm just going to pick the inside edge of all of these walls on my ground floor. I'm happy to just leave that generic 150mm floor for now, so tick to finish. And if we get a message about lines not being joined, it'll show you where the problem is, and it's because of that little extra wall segment that I had earlier, so I'll go and pick that as well. And there we go. Now I can again tick to finish. And when you're asked to attach, in this case I'd say no. And then when it asks you to join geometry and cut the overlapping volume, say yes. So into the 3D view, now I can see my walls fairly clearly finish at that floor, but then I've got one wall that comes through the floor that I do want attached. So often, this is just the way I do it, I'll tend to say no to the automatic attaching and then go and choose the walls that I want to attach, and manually, after you choose the wall, choose attach top base and then choose the floor. If you get a message about things, or the fact that it can't keep the wall and floor joined, that's fine, just choose unjoin elements. Oops, so I'll do that again. Attach top base, choose the floor, and then unjoin elements. It's fine. Oh no, okay, so here it's not even going to let me attach it. I'll show you again. So if I either option here, it's not going to work properly, again just because things are slightly off the edge there. So that's okay. You can always do it in a more manual way. Just go into your properties and set the top offset to -150, and that will bring it down so that it lines up with the floor. Okay, so it's a little bit messy in this area here. Chances are you're not going to show that as a view anyway, but if you wanted to, you could bring those walls down. I would only worry about that if you end up seeing it in a view. Okay, so later on, when you do the stairs, you'll need to take away part of the floor where the stairs go, but to begin with, you could just leave it as it is. So shaded, that's how it should look once you've got the two levels set up with all the main walls.